welcome to Mom Boss Chronicles, the show that celebrates the incredible journey of mom bosses who are conquering the world of business and motherhood. We are your hosts, Jen,
Danielle, and Sue.
Make sure to like and subscribe and share with your mom friends today.
Thank you. Welcome back to Mom Boss Chronicles. We're excited to have you all here for another week. And today we have a very fun guest, Corinne McCormack. She is the founder of Corinne McCormack, Inc., which is a eyeglass company. Very exciting. Company, yeah. Yes. You built this company out of your own home, and you actually penned a book, From the Living Room to the Boardroom.
Which is right here.
Which is right here and can be purchased on Amazon.
Yes.
That's where I saw it. Very intriguing because I met you. You are also a real estate agent.
Yeah, multiple careers.
Yes, I love that. I think that's kind of like, that's what I love to see about entrepreneurs, right? But I'm really excited to hear how you started your company and really kind of like diving into the book a little bit, because I know you had mentioned you were starting this company and you had a little son at home. Mm-hmm. What was the inspiration to start this company?
I had always wanted to have my own company from the time I started working in my career. So I started as a retailer, as a buyer for Macy's. Wow. And once I got going, what I loved about being a retailer was I could go out, I could create products, I could put them in a shop, I can see them sell, and I just loved it.
Yeah.
And I loved the independence. At that point, it was a very different world than it is today.
And you were living in Manhattan at the time, yes?
In Manhattan.
Okay.
And I really just got this feeling like I want to have my own company, and assumed everybody wanted to have their own business. And then, years went on, and I went to a couple of different companies where I was doing product development. But in the back of my mind, I always wanted to do my own thing.
Wow, it was still there, yeah.
Yeah, it was still there. And it was because I just had this entrepreneurial spirit. So even when I was working in a giant company, like at that point I was working for Avon, developing products, we came up with products that were like the biggest products they'd ever had.
That's awesome.
And I thought, I did Christmas ornaments. They were like little teddy bear ornaments, and it was the biggest sales they'd ever had. And I thought, why am I working for somebody else? Why aren't I working for myself?
Yep.
Well, the main reason was money. And connections. So, life goes on. I ended up getting married and having a baby. And then a friend of mine from Asia, who I had met as I was developing products, reached out to me and said, you should join me. I really want to work together and we could have a company. And I thought, that's great. And I'm like, not while I have a baby. Mm-hmm. We have to wait till my baby gets older. Mm-hmm. So he and I kept in touch. And sure enough, 2 years later, I'm working for a jewelry company, which was Trifari. If any of you are familiar with Trifari jewelry, it's like a really well-known brand from the 60s and the 70s. And then it kind of went, became more down market, whereas in the original Trifari, it was gorgeous jewelry. And so they had gotten acquired, and I ended up losing my job.
Oh my
The position
God.
was eliminated.
Wow. Yeah.
And I knew it was coming. And I guess that's what got me into real estate, because we had lived in a small one-bedroom, and my son was now a year old, and it was time for us to move out. And we moved to a larger apartment uptown, and we were going to be signing a lease for a larger apartment. And that's when my position was eliminated. And so I talked to my accountant, and I'm like, this was 10 months before my position was eliminated. The president of our company was let go, who I loved. Wow. And I said, what am I going to do if my president's let go? It's only a matter of time till that's going to happen.
You saw the writing on the wall.
I saw the writing. Well, if you're an entrepreneur, you think into the future.
Yep.
And so I knew that was coming. And I said, what do I do? We're buying this apartment. His point to me, and I wrote about it in the book, was you have to live somewhere, which is a great answer.
That's true. 1,000%.
It was really smart, because we did have to live somewhere. And so we moved into the house, and we lived there for, almost a year before my position was eliminated. Mm-hmm. And now we have a mortgage and all the other expenses of having a child, living in the city. And yes, my husband was working and fully employed, but we were two salary family company.
It's easy. But it's easy. You get accustomed to that dual income.
Oh, we certainly did.
Yes.
So at that time, I started looking for other positions, because I thought, it would be inappropriate to just go start my own company.
Yeah.
But I really want to start my own business. And I started creating, like, what would I do? And then I reached out to my friend in Hong Kong. And I was like, all right, my son's 2 years old. I'm now in the position where I do want to start a company. So he said, come and meet with me.
Wow.
And this was, my position was eliminated in October. And he said, come to Hong Kong right away.
Get on a plane.
Like, okay.
Yeah. Travel across the world.
Give me a couple of weeks
Wow.
to at least get myself together. And then it turned out it was right around Thanksgiving, and I ended up booking a flight.
That's amazing.
And getting over there because I had earned so many miles that I was able to fly
that's
free to Asia.
Well, that's
It was
good.
delightful.
Yeah.
So my
So
attitude
I have to go. I'm going. Yeah.
right. Yeah. My husband was 100% behind it. That's the other thing. He was always very fully supportive.
I love that.
And my son didn't have much of a say in it. He got on board too.
Yeah.
And then once I got there, I came with a couple of different ideas because I knew I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I had lots of experience. So I developed plush line for one company, and I developed a small leather goods line for another company. And then I developed a jewelry company for the third company I had worked with. And in the jewelry company, I also created some eyeglass chains that I heard were a good opportunity. It was the early 90s, believe it or not. Nobody really was doing decorative eyeglass chains. So I lost a very expensive pair of sunglasses. I'm like, I'm not going to lose those again. So I wanted to buy this, and they didn't exist. So anyway, I brought with me like prototypes. I had sent prototypes and said, this is really what I'm looking for. You know, can you design? Long story short, I go to Korea, which is where this factory was, sit at a table much like this, you know, and they bring in my samples. So I had some jewelry samples and the eyewear chains. And I looked at the eyewear chains and I was like, what are the costs? And they told me, I was like, oh my God, this is a business. Like, I know this can become a business.
Like I could sell this. Yeah.
I can sell this.
Yeah.
And I had 12 chains and it didn't matter. And I ended up calling my husband that night. I was so excited. I'm like, I cannot believe it. I really think I've got something. But we've got to come up with a way to merchandise it because I can't just sell eyeglass chains hanging. And
Show
I
nothing.
have a card. You've got to come up with the card.
Yep.
Long story short, came back to the States. I crafted my own card with his help. The two of us are running around the apartment trying to find like some picture of glasses that we can put on a card. So the card was very plain with the chains hanging off of it.
Yep.
Ended up introducing it, long story short, goes into the marketplace. I find, you know, because I had a lot of connections and I used every connection.
It's awesome from working so hard. Yeah.
Right. I'm working for a lot of different companies. And my goal had been I work for companies for 5 years and then I move on. So I just...
That's a model. You're ahead of your time.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah, because if you stay one place too long, then when you go to look, you don't have enough experience.
Stay so long, you lose out on being paid better because when you
that's
jump to
true,
new
too.
places, you inevitably jump your salary. But anyway, I digress.
That's true. No, you're
Yes,
right.
yeah.
But I also looked at not just my salary, but also my experience.
Yeah.
So every company I went to,
Yep.
it was a step up in a different direction.
Right. And I feel like 5 years is a good time too to
get comfortable.
make the connections, learn, right? Learn the product, learn the institutional knowledge and all of that. And then now to go on
And say
to the
bye-bye.
next. Yes.
No, we're going elsewhere.
Okay, I have what I need here.
Yeah.
And actually, I knew I couldn't just walk in and quit
Right.
and say I'm starting my own company. But it was great. I can say this now. It was great getting a severance package.
Yep.
Because I ended up getting like 6 months severance.
Wow.
And so I put it aside and I said to my husband, this has got to last until I can earn a check.
Right.
Yeah. So we could build this company up.
Right. So we have something to start with. And I budgeted at that point, I thought I'd had 6 months to live on. And then I stretched it to 9 months.
Wow.
But believe it or not, within 9 months, I launched a line, put it at market, sold it to a couple of high-end stores,
That's awesome.
including Sunglass Hut and Lens Crafters. And then shout out to the icing and accessory lady, if anybody remembers those chains.
Yes. Icing,
Icing,
for sure.
yes.
Right? That's such a cute
Yeah.
chain.
Yeah.
So those were like, I was so excited about that business. And now I'm in business and I'm out of my apartment. I'm doing it on my own. And then I start, you know, hiring babysitters to come work for me to help me pack and ship.
Yeah.
It was just craziness. And my son goes from 2 to 4. We're working in the apartment. It is a co-op. At the point I was getting orders for like 70 cartons shipping to Macy's.
Oh my gosh.
With displays so that we had like 70, you know, cartons that were big.
Yep.
And, people were starting to talk
Oh,
because
the neighbors.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, but it's
running
New
a
York
business.
City. Yeah, they don't.
Like, what is she doing in there?
Yeah,
My
what's she
super
doing?
was mad because we would be using the elevator, and it was not a good scene.
They weren't happy.
No,
Yeah.
they weren't happy. But luckily, my husband was on the board,
Oh,
so he
good.
knew what was going on. And then at 2 years, he said to me, "You got to get an office."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, I guess I've got to get an office." So I say that it was time for me to get an office when I stopped working in my home and I was living in my office. Is what it had turned into.
Yeah.
Because I had 3 people coming in to work in the home. It was nuts, but it was really cool because my son was little. And so he would come home from nursery school, and I had a babysitter taking care of him. But it was just really nice to be around
Yeah,
with
of
him
course.
Yes. I
and to
know.
be
It's
involved.
like doing it all parallel. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's what moms are doing now too. They're starting businesses from their home with their kids because they still want that
Yeah.
motherhood balance and building the company balance.
And also
Yeah.
that way I didn't have to worry. Like if he had an after-school program I wanted to attend, I didn't have to go and ask anybody.
Yeah.
If I wanted to work till 12 at night, that was my call.
On your agenda. Yeah.
Like I knew I'll
And
get
it's
to
for
work.
you.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not for somebody else.
Well,
yeah.
luckily, I think a lot of companies have become more forgiving,
Yeah.
more understanding, more flexible with women who are moms, but nobody's more understandable than the mom herself.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and I wanted to create a company where, this would be like the way we work. So it was very cool. And then we ended up getting an office in New York, and things just built on from there.
That's awesome.
And that's why I wrote my book, because there was like different stages of my building a business, and there's a lot of detail that goes into it. Like it's very important to get financing. And I ended
Investors. Yeah.
up, I didn't do investors.
Oh, just the financing on your own. That's
I did financing on my
That's
own.
awesome.
Because, like I hear people are like, oh, I need friends and family investors. And
Yeah.
at this point, I'm like, if you don't have your own money on the line, why am I going to give my money to you?
Yeah. True.
Sorry, people who are out there looking for angel investments. But, I really scrimped and saved and worked my ass off. Am I allowed to say ass?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, I'm not willing to give over part of my business to somebody else. I wanted to go into a business
That's
for
awesome.
me. So, and luckily it all worked out.
Yeah.
And so, it was the whole thing of building and building and building, and the business got bigger. And then 5 years after being in business, I was still too young to need reading glasses. But I was doing a shot for promoting my chains and cases, hired a stylist, told her, here's my chains and cases, and they're all really fashionable, and they're different colors, and here's the color of this story, and this is color. And I want you to go out and find sunglasses and reading glasses that are in coordinating stories, And so she came back, and she had sunglasses that matched, which was great. But she said, I really couldn't find any reading glasses except this. And she gave me a pair of antique brass, granny-looking glasses.
You're like this? Yeah.
And I'm like, that's exactly what I don't want.
Yeah.
And she said, well, I do have this really cool pair that I got at a flea market, and they were cat eyes, and they were black. I said, that's more like it. I don't want them in black, but that's
cool style.
Right.
Yeah.
And she goes, oh, but they're mine. And I said, I'll pay you $100. Can I have it as a sample?
Give it to me. I love that.
And then she did, and that was like the beginning
That's
of
amazing.
my creation of a new collection.
You saw the need. You're like, the market needs cool,
Right, because
different
that's what I was
design.
thinking is like, I don't need reading glasses, but when I need reading glasses,
I don't want that.
I want fashionable
Yeah.
ones. Yeah.
Right,
love
I'm not going to
that.
go looking for granny glasses.
Yeah.
I'm going to want glasses that I'm going to
You're a
be
problem solver.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's true.
I
It is
just,
a problem
I need readers. Yeah.
Oh, you do?
I'll have to get yours.
Yeah.
I don't know if they make them anymore because they sold my company over 8 years ago.
Wait, I feel like I saw it on Walmart. It was your name.
What's the name of the company?
It was her name.
It's my name. It's my name. And when I developed a collection, it was sold in Bloomingdale's, Nordstrom's,
That's
Lord and
amazing.
Taylor. So
Was that
I Googled you.
No,
and
that's good.
They did
That's
pop
good.
up somewhere.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was in
cool.
Barnes and Noble.
Yeah.
But all those businesses, everything is so cheap.
changed? Yeah.
And I ended up running my own company for, I don't know, like 20 years.
Was it exciting? And
Oh, it was very exciting. Very exciting, nail biting.
yeah,
go
all the
through
emotions.
all the emotions. Some days were great, some days were terrible.
Yeah.
But I just kept on going and didn't stop. And I had 10 very successful years from when I started. And my 10th year was 2001. The business declined.
It changed.
Well, yes, but everything changed. And the problem is after having 10 very successful years, I had planned to spend money and lose money that year.
Okay.
I know. You say, okay, I said okay, my bank said okay, but then I lost twice as much as I planned because
Yeah.
the business got so bad.
Yeah.
Then I already invested in a bigger showroom and all these other
Right.
things.
Yeah.
Marketing. And long story short, I actually turned it around in 2 years.
That's amazing.
So it was amazing.
Yeah. Like you didn't, like, I guess you kept going. You're like, I have to figure this out. And
Well, that's one of the lessons of the book is perseverance, determination.
in entrepreneurship. Yes.
Yeah, you just got to go for I actually have the terms of what an entrepreneur are. And it says, are you an entrepreneur? And the terms that 8 qualities of an entrepreneur are passion, number 1, 2, drive, 3, self-sufficiency. These are all important. Inquisitiveness. I meet so many people who aren't curious. I am like so curious about everything. Communicator, leadership, vision, which was ironic, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I did have vision. Decisiveness, that's the other thing. Like I would
huge.
ask for people's opinion,
Yep.
but the leader has to make a decision and move.
Yep.
And you
Yes.
can't
Mull.
make a decision and then go, oh, why did I ever do that?
Yeah.
You
It's
just
like,
got to go with it, right?
you got to go with
Yep.
it. And you can modify
Yep.
it, you could change it, but you got to go. That's it. I got to 8. I'm ready to keep going. Those are the 8 qualities of an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And so then, after being in business on my own, at this point, my son was getting ready to go to college, and I had realized
So
that
he grew up watching his
Yeah.
mom run a company. I mean, like
That's
was
amazing.
just- yeah.
he not only grew up, he got to reap the benefits. And this is one of the secrets of being a mom in business, was I made sure my son understood that if mommy was home while you're in school and not working, we would not have all the things we have.
Yep.
You wouldn't have the nice clothes.
Yep.
You wouldn't go on nice vacations. I would just
Talk to him about
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
build it up. Yeah,
Yeah.
when I went away traveling and when he was very little, I would leave and then I would buy him a toy for when I left and I'd buy him a toy for when I came home because nothing cures sadness more than a toy.
Especially to a
sure.
child.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, at some point I stopped.
Yeah.
But that was really
But
important
you didn't want
at
him
the
being
beginning.
upset. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
Mommy's like, no, don't go, but look what I bought you.
Yeah.
And he wants you to go so he can get the toy.
Right, exactly. All right, you're leaving, right?
But I
Next
feel like
week?
it's so important as an entrepreneur to have those tough conversations with your kids because they may see you working long hours. They
Right.
may see you travel. But it's like, I'm doing this because I have a purpose. There's a vision. There's a company I'm running. And I think children are smarter than we give them credit for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you sit and
More
explain
resilient.
that,
Well, where I was explaining this to Sue, I think that's how we got in the conversation about my own company. What made me really proud is that after I sold my business to a Foster Grant, much larger company than mine, and then I continued to work for them as a vice president and creative director and, help them build their business with other retailers because they were in Walmart and every drugstore. And they were in every major retailer across the United States. I was in the high end. They were in the mass retailers. And then after being with them for 8 years, that's when I went out and said, it's too much. Like, I really want to be
Yeah.
an entrepreneur again. I'm done. And we had a great parting of the ways. And then I sat down and I wrote a book.
that's awesome.
And I did the book basically because I had just felt like I had a lot of lessons learned and I wanted to share it with people.
I love that.
And I wanted to give it to my son so that he knew what his mother did.
Yeah.
So,
I'm gonna cry. Like, that's so sweet. So sweet. Yep.
So when I launched the book, and I was still in the accessories business, and I had a party with the accessory councils, and so I promoted my book, and I was talking about the book and what I did and what I said, and we had a group of people, and we opened it up for questions. And my son raised his hand, and not everybody knew he was my son. He said, "How is it that you were able to build a business and raise a family at the same time?" And I thought, that is so cool because I thought he saw everything that I did.
Yeah.
But he really didn't.
Yeah.
He was entitled to have a childhood.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved. I'm very much somebody who segments life. So I would be working and be like, I can't leave. Because in those days you stayed at work, you had an office.
Yep.
I can't leave. Finally, I'd come home at 7:00. And then as soon as I walked in the door, all of that went away and I was only with him
Present.
till he
Yeah.
went to bed.
Yeah.
And then I got out and started working again. It was very simple. I
Yeah.
didn't of course I had to travel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that interrupted that flow.
course.
But, and if I Like I used to visit stores with him. He was so cute because we would go in stores at the beginning. We would go into stores to see how the product was set up. So I want to merchandise make sure the fixture was out. It was
Displayed properly.
Talk to people.
Yeah.
And I would tell him, don't tell them who I am.
Or who we are.
Yeah, because
secret
my name's Corinne McCormack. It's on the product, I look too small if I'm out here. I had this idea that I wanted to be bigger than I was. So Corinne McCormack should not be visiting Macy's in, wherever that day, Roosevelt Field or something. So we go to the stores and he comes over and he goes, you should tell them who you are.
We should tell them. Yes, I love that.
Corinne McCormack. You need to let them know who you are. It was so cute.
He was proud of his mom.
Yeah, he was. He was really proud.
That's so
It was very cute. It was even fun because one time I was talking to his teacher. Oh, yeah, he was in kindergarten, and I was going to China, and I said something to her about, Adam, I don't know, I was talking about Adam wanted me to, I'm going to get you a chain, and this is because Adam came with me. I used to travel, and when he was younger, I would talk to the teacher, would plan it in advance.
Wow. And
he would get lessons, and then he would come
That's amazing.
to Hong Kong and China and sit there.
How awesome.
It was really cool. And so I said to her, I said, Adam specifically designed something for you that you're going to get as soon as I get my sample. And then she thought it was going to be like a little kid. But he actually took one of my designs, and I was doing it in all gold and all silver, and he made it gold and silver combinations. He's very clever.
That's yes.
Yeah.
I love that.
And so she was shocked when she got the sample that it was like real.
Like, no, he did it.
So
Yeah.
Right.
That's so
What does your son do for a living?
He's a computer engineer.
Okay.
Wow. That's
So
awesome.
it was really part of the reason I wanted to sell my
needed job.
business. Yeah. Because originally I thought someday he might want the business. And if he wants it, I can keep running it
Yes.
until he's ready.
And pass it on.
But then when he went to college and he was like all computers,
Yeah.
and I said to him, he doesn't even remember because I recently asked him, but I said, do you have any interest in being in my business? And he said, no.
And I'm happy that you listen instead of being that
Yeah,
parent. Like, you should take it over. Or like,
Oh, well, yeah, that's like in the back of my mind. That's what was going on.
Yeah.
And I didn't.
but you respected his wishes. Yeah.
You came to China with me.
I have to remember that. Yeah. So no, I didn't.
That's awesome.
And and he's doing his own thing, and he's very successful, and we're proud of him. And
Yeah.
Yeah, it all worked
So was
out
it
really
hard when you decided to sell your business? Was that a hard decision, like internally for you?
It took me a couple of years because it really took turning the business around and then realizing that I had taken it as far as I could,
Yep.
and it was going to be a constant struggle because I had reached the point that I really wasn't going to get much more funding independently. So up until this point, I was completely self-financed with
Yeah.
the bank. So we put money in. Oh, and that's the other real estate story. We funded my business through that co-op. So the apartment that we bought before I started my business funded my business because we bought the apartment and this is relevant for everybody today. Our apartment, when we bought it, the interest rates were like 12 or 13%.
That is, and that did not deter you.
That the 80s?
We didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, when I started,
was.
our first apartment was 15%.
Wow.
So this one
That
was
was
like
like-
only 12 or 13.
Like,
We were
okay.
Very happy.
Yeah.
So that was just the cost of what you have to pay. And that's the way people have to look at it. It's a cost of what you have to pay to
Operating.
live
Yeah.
Right.
in a house.
Yes.
So, and it's worth it. It's very worth it. So we got the apartment, and then let's just pretend and say we bought it for $100,000. And then as we lived in it, the mortgage rates came down. So when the mortgage rates dropped 3 points, and now my apartment's valued at $200,000 because the valuation of my apartment was going up
Yep.
very quickly because we bought in a down market, but we were getting higher. So the difference, like here, if you buy at 100 and now your house appraises at 200, you maintain your mortgage, you could take $100,000 out
Yep.
and you can keep that $100,000 to finance something.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then if the mortgage rates have declined, which is what was happening for us, because the mortgage rates went from 13 down to like 8,
Wow, what a
7.
big difference.
Big difference.
Yeah.
So when I see people complaining about mortgage rates at 7 or 8,
I know. It's like,
I'm like,
They
that
were
was
double
a party
digits.
for
Yeah.
us. You know?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
relative. It's all relative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yep.
And I love that you seized the opportunity to take that money and create a business.
Well, I didn't. This was in retrospect. I
Yeah.
didn't know that beforehand. But as I was financing my business and working with my accountant, and the bank would give you only so much money, but however much money I could put into the business was how much money they initially lent me.
Yeah.
So my mother-in-law and brother-in-law gave us enough money that we had like a little chunk of change that we put into the business. The bank matched it. But then the more I grew and the more they felt comfortable with me as an owner, they started allowing me to,
Yep. Your credit line increased essentially.
yeah, exactly.
right.
And so we could now borrow more and more
Yeah.
and more. But occasionally I had to go back in and invest more and more.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that makes
as I needed to invest.
Right.
And then the other thing that was a miracle was at the time when I said my business was declining, and there came a point where we needed to put in more money. And my accountant at that point said to me, "You should get out of business." And I just thought, I'm not done. I really am
Like
not
you
done.
felt the intuition. You're
Yeah,
like, it's
I
not
said
over.
I would be happy to quit if I really felt this business had reached its peak.
Yeah.
But it hasn't.
Yeah.
There's a lot more for me to do. It's just, like I said to him, if I was any large company, I think at that point Amazon had just started. I'm like, if I was Amazon, Amazon's losing money hand over fist, but they keep just
Going
investing.
because they believe in they
Right.
believe in
They
themselves.
believe in the business.
Yeah.
So I believe in the business. So he said, all right, do what you got to do. So I talked to my husband. I said, we need $50,000 to put in the business. That's what I'm going to run the business on for the next few months. If I can't turn it around, we'll close the doors.
But let me try this. Yeah.
And he said, okay. And I didn't even have to tell him how much I wanted to invest. He wasn't, it wasn't, can I? It was like, how much do you need?
What
Yeah.
a great partner.
Yeah, he was always really supportive and right there for me. So for us, I mean, we were building this thing together,
Yeah.
really. And it worked.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So real estate, really, for people who want to run their own business, by owning real estate, you create your own wealth, which you don't realize when you're first buying.
Yeah.
And you can't think about it short term because we lived
yeah.
in that apartment for 25 years.
Wow.
Wow.
So that apartment increased in value. It was one of the best investments we ever made
That's
Yep.
amazing.
until the house we bought in Long Branch, which is now
Yeah.
That's
increasing.
right.
Well,
Oh,
yeah.
Right. But that's what it is. It's like you can't look at real estate like, oh, it's reached its peak,
Yeah.
we're done.
No.
It just keeps going up and up and up.
I mean, everybody needs a place to live, like your accountant said. So
Yeah.
it's like, what was the other option?
What was the other?
Yeah.
To rent.
Yeah.
And you know what happens when you rent? You get nothing.
Exactly.
You know, if you,
After 25 years, what do you? No.
we would be leaving, we'd be walking out the door and with nothing.
Yeah.
And instead, we increased our original investment by 6 times.
That's amazing.
It was really unbelievable. Plus having,
Yeah.
use-
Using the capital out from that
Yeah.
to launch a business.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
And I
So-
just think a lot of people don't have that guidance or knowledge.
Or the fear, it
yeah,
stops
the fear,
them because it's like
definitely.
the rates are high, but don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
It is, honestly, it is what it is. And then the other thing that I love in real estate is when everybody says, the rates are too high, I'm going to wait till they go down. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you think the market is hard when the rates are high,
imagine what happens.
what happens when the rates go low? All
Yeah.
those people who are waiting are going to jump in. I think that's the other thing, being an entrepreneur, or at least for myself. I do the opposite of what everybody is doing.
The famous Warren Buffett quote.
Oh, what's that?
Warren Buffett says, be greedy when others are fearful and be fearful when others are greedy.
Oh,
So you were
interesting.
living the Warren Buffett quote.
Yeah, who knew?
Yeah.
I liked Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
But it's really true. I do. Because I remember when I started my own business, I spoke to a woman who had started she started like a consulting business right before me. And I spoke to a couple of people and they all had their messages. And they were like, you need to have 2 years worth of salary in the bank. I didn't have, I had 6
And if you would
months
have waited,
Right.
if you would have waited to that, you might not have ever started.
Right.
I
Like
never
that's-
would have started.
Right? And that's the thing. Some people feel like they need to get to X before they can go there.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Like I knew that was what I wanted to do. Luckily, when I didn't have a job and I was interviewing, but really like tough. Like I want a job where, I have a young son and I'm going to need to have some freedom. So if, I need to leave early or whatever.
Yep.
And they're like, oh, okay. Well, next person.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Right.
The universe was talking to you.
Yeah, it really
That's
was.
like you turned lemonade from lemons, like you could have continued down that path of trying to get another job or maybe taking something that wasn't fulfilling,
Yes.
and you were like, nah, I'm doing my own thing.
Yeah.
Forging my own path.
Exactly. And that's how I found real estate because I wrote the book and I was doing consulting. And I thought, oh, this is great. I'm writing a book and now I'm going to consult and I wanted to work with entrepreneurs. I was doing like things in New York to meet people, meet and greets. And it just didn't pan out. It wasn't fulfilling. I'd meet somebody once or twice and then a lot of people, oh, well, here's a good example. Like when it came time for me to get financing for my company, I was attending I was part of a group called American Women's Economic Development. It's now defunct, but there's so many other organizations that support women in startups.
Yep.
And I was a member and I was going to their classes and they said that there was going to be a class where Chase Bank was going to be meeting women entrepreneurs. There was this new funding initiative where they really wanted to fund startup businesses and particularly minority-owned businesses, and women are minorities.
Yeah.
So it was the first time I was like, yeah, I love this. So I went, and it was at least over 100, maybe 200 people in the auditorium. Vice president gets up, and he's talking, and he's telling about this initiative and how they want to support the businesses and blah, blah, blah. And I said I had a question. I have a catch-22. I need money to finance my business. That's how I'm going to be in business for the next 3 years. And yet when I go to a bank, they say, you need to show us 3 years of financials to be able for us to give you financing. How does that work? I don't have the money, so
Right.
I can't run a company.
Yeah.
And that's what you need to be able to finance.
Would you like hypotheticals?
Yeah, right.
Right.
So he said, oh, well, that's a good question. Call me.
Oh my
I'll
gosh.
talk to you. So his name was Corinne Mastro something or another, and a VP at Chase.
Wow.
I wrote down his number. It was pre-cell phones,
Yes.
Yeah.
pre-email. Wrote down his number, and the next day I called really early because I wanted to beat everybody
Yes.
else.
You're like, I'm doing this. Yeah.
Do you know how many people called?
No one.
You one.
Just you?
Yeah. You took
No
initi-
way.
Out of all those people in the audience, all dying to know how to get financing, here's a man saying, we want to work with you.
Call me. Yeah.
Call me.
Holy moly.
He didn't just give me the number. He
Yeah.
gave it to everybody.
I'm not
And
surprised at
I was
all.
the only one who called. So people really have to ask themselves, because not everybody is meant to be an entrepreneur. And I do have like a question and answer in here, like, are you an entrepreneur? And give.
I love that.
I have to get
because
that book. Yeah.
I've taken the Are You an Entrepreneur test. It was like 10 out of 10.
Wow.
So
It was in your blood.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's in my blood.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then, so then after I realized the coaching just wasn't doing it for me, and I just thought, why don't I try real estate? Like we just bought the house in Long Branch. We have an apartment in New York. I love going to Long Branch on weekends. I'll be a real estate agent. How fun is that?
Yeah.
Every weekend, I'll show houses, I'll sell a couple, and I'm done.
Yeah.
This is great. But I didn't know what being a real estate agent was like. Not ironically, I guess the great thing is that as I started, once I took my test and I started meeting people, I realized the same skills that I took to launch my business as an eyewear company, instead of talking to the Bloomingdale's buyer, I was talking to people who wanted to buy a house. And I had to earn your trust and respect and help you to find what you were looking for. And it was, there's obviously differences, but it's the same sort of goals. And, I'm aggressive. I like to go out and find things. So especially as the market heated up, because I was there, I started right before COVID. So nothing was happening.
Wow.
Nothing.
Yep.
I was so upset. It's like,
I thought that was the best time.
no. Not in 2019. 2019 October was dead because it was right before the holidays. Holiday season
And it
tends to
slowed
be
down,
quiet.
yeah.
There was a ton of inventory on the market. Nobody was buying.
Best time to buy.
I bought August 2019. Out.
See?
Yeah.
There
Yeah, I
you go.
bought
Very
September
smart.
She was my agent.
All right. So there you go.
Yeah,
so
we
you
bought it the best time.
Yeah.
Right.
Really.
And so then in 2020, just as I had gotten my license and it was going into spring market, I'm like, oh, I can't wait because
Yeah.
now it's going to start popping.
And then
then COVID hit.
Yeah.
So, oh God, I was like, what do I do? What do I
Weird
do?
time.
But, once the market opened up by May and June, I got a listing and I sold it. And then I was like, I know how to do this.
Okay.
And the whole idea of working weekends went right out the window.
So nice in theory, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'll just work weekend.
No, I had no idea. But
Right.
once I got into it, I was like, I don't want to go back to New York. I
Yeah.
really want to be here.
Yes.
Like, this is where the action is.
Absolutely.
So,
And the action's by the beach, which is so much
Yeah.
more fun.
oh,
Yeah.
isn't it true?
Yes.
Yeah. And also, I'm loving being in the area. Like,
Yep.
driving around, like even coming just everywhere I go, I'm
Yeah.
impressed with how great this area is.
Yes,
So-
Monmouth County is
Yeah,
awesome.
Monmouth County's the best.
It really is. And it's just a great investment because there's only one ocean. They're not building it.
True. Yeah.
You know, and if you've got property by the beach, you're not going to find another beach.
Right.
And, you know,
Yeah.
they're not going to build one. We got it.
Right.
So the property
Location,
values go
location,
up, up, up.
location. Yeah.
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 So it's all really good.
I love how you rolled with everything in life. Like rolled with the business. It went down, but you still rolled with it. Like sold it, rolled into real estate. Like
Well, yeah, because in real estate, you know, I do say in here you need to have patience, and I do, but it's not my strong suit. I had forgot which one. It's in here somewhere where each article, so each chapter there's a little story behind it. I call it the seeds of success. And I talk about like what you're going to learn in this next chapter.
That's
so the
awesome.
idea being you could pick up this book and open to any chapter and you'll be able to read it and enjoy it and it'll be meaningful for you.
I can't wait to read it.
me too. When did it come out?
It actually came out in 2018.
Wow.
So
That's
it's
awesome.
just really cool because I did it and I put it aside and then I've been doing real estate and not everybody knows that I wrote a book, but I just enjoy my real estate business.
Yeah.
And I really do approach it as if it's, you know, a business,
Yeah.
a
Yeah,
small
and it is.
business,
It
which
is.
it is.
Yeah.
Then the other thing I was going to say is that you need patience, and that's what I have, even though like I said, I don't like to have patience. But right at COVID, when COVID hit, and I was calling my manager, I'm like, what do I do? Like, I'm sitting here in my house. How do I get business? And he said, well, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm creating a list of customers. You know, I have a way to go in, figure out who lives where and their phone numbers, and I'm calling them. But nothing's happening. He goes, well, you're doing the right thing. It's like, okay. And so it's like, you just got to keep going.
Yeah.
And I kept going. And then I met somebody who wanted to sell their house. But it's when you get defeated
Yeah.
and, you know, like, oh, I've been calling for 2 weeks and nobody's saying anything.
Yeah.
You don't know the next call.
Right.
Could change everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just have
Exactly.
the mindset that this business for sure
Yes.
is mindset.
Absolutely. Especially in this
Because
market with the low
you can
inventory.
hustle and
Yeah.
do everything. I mean, there was like a listing I was working on, and the person decided to go someone like that hurt, you know. But you can't let
Instead
that,
of taking it as a step back and not
Right.
going forward, you're like, I have to keep going.
right?
Yeah.
No, like okay, that sucks, but moving on.
On to
you
the
know,
next.
right?
Yeah.
I got a new
also-
listing, right?
I would learn, like I would say, what did they offer you that I didn't? Just to know.
Right.
Yeah.
Everything's a learning experience.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. Because if in the end they're all about discounting,
Yeah.
you just know
Yeah.
that they may not sell that house and they'll be calling you
Right.
in,
Yep.
30, 60, 80
Yep.
days. You don't know.
And at the end of the day, I don't think, not that I'm sitting here thinking I'm perfect, but like, it's not personal. You know,
Yes.
business is business at the end of
Absolutely.
the day.
Exactly.
And like, there's not
Yes.
someone like, oh, well, she's stupid, you
Yeah.
know? Like,
Yes. I know what you mean. Yeah.
But, you know, that's
I
good.
would
It's,
say she's stupid.
I hope
s-
not.
Nobody.
I hope not me. Don't
Oh,
talk
right.
about
No,
me
you mean, but
stupid.
it's like somebody else would
Oh,
say that, like,
right.
oh, so-and-so is stupid.
Yeah. You never know.
Well, then those are people you don't want to
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
then it
Because
was,
that's the other thing. It's
Yeah.
very challenging.
Yeah.
In real estate, there are people that you just click with, and those are the ones that you
Yeah.
want to work with.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
same.
then there are some people that it's your oil and water.
And
Yeah.
I feel like you attract who you want in a way. So
Right.
like if things don't come your way, that's because it wasn't meant to be, and that's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Really, the law. What is it called?
Law of
The
attraction.
law of
Yes.
attraction. And also, there's think of how many people are out there looking. You just got to keep going and find the right one.
Yep. Well, I love that. Thank you so much for coming
Yeah.
on
Oh, my
today.
pleasure.
This was amazing. You are very inspiring, and I love your entrepreneurial spirit. And clearly, you're a stubborn spirit too, because you're like, nope, we're gonna keep moving.
Yeah.
That's
You think-
true.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for coming on
Thank
today.
you. It's
so
great to
much.
meet you. Thanks for inviting
Yeah,
me.
for
Having me
sure.
today.
What an awesome, inspiring story. So, yeah, from living room to boardroom.
Yeah, we're going to link all of this stuff. So if you guys want to buy the book as well, we'll have that for you. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.